Chapter number 7 has to do with current asset management. So we're talking about accounts receivable, inventory, etc. So this has to do with managing cash and your cash flows, which is something that you people do on a regular basis, determining when cash is coming in and when cash is going out. You need to do that in order to maintain liquidity. So in other words, you need enough money to pay your bills. We'll talk about a bit about marketable securities. We'll talk about accounts receivable. And you may not have ever viewed accounts receivable this way, but accounts receivable is like inventory. It is a current asset. And the higher accounts receivable is, the more cash it absorbs. Because of course, as accounts receivable goes down, the more cash you receive. So finance managers spend a lot of time, the majority of their time, dealing with current assets. Large purchases or investing in a new plant, those are done very irregularly, maybe every several years. But current asset management, how much money we have tied up in inventory, is very big deal, and it is done on literally a daily basis. How much money we have, where is the money? Companies will even invest money overnight. They've got an extra $3 million sitting around, even for a day, they will invest it in overnight securities. Just earn interest on that for one additional day. So what you're also trying to do is find out the optimal level of cash. They need enough cash to be able to pay their bills, but cash is not a resource that really generates revenue by itself. Think of your checking account that you have, how much interest you get on your funds. So you want to keep a minimum amount of cash in there, but you need to keep enough cash to be able to pay your bills on time. Float is the difference between when you pay something and it comes out of your bank account. So when checks are issued, which is one of the main reasons a lot of companies still use checks, it's done for a couple of reasons, but let's say that they issue the check and they mail it out on Friday. According to the bank, to mail acceptance rule that you took in B-Law, that's considered paid on the day it is mailed, not on the day it's received. So you mail out the check Friday afternoon, it arrives on Wednesday the next week, it gets cashed right away. You don't have to have that money in your bank account for several days. Now with electronic funds transfer, you do need the monies right away. Speeding up collections is something that you do. You would like to get your cash as quickly as possible. And your generation is used to having auto deposits for your paychecks, not like the old days where people would actually have paper checks and they would have to go to the bank and deposit them. It's in your account when you wake up in the morning. Also extending disbursements, paying your bills as slowly as you can with still managing to pay your bills on time, hopefully. Right? So there's two reasons for holding cash you can see. One is for everyday transactions. You and I have the exact same reasons. And by the way, cash is not just cash in your pocket. We're talking about cash in your bank account. Most of you will have a certain amount of cash in your bank account. So if you want to go out and buy something, you can use your debit card and pay for it. You also will probably try to have some cushion or emergency funds just in case something comes along for that you hadn't planned on. So if you take a trip, you'd like to have some cash in reserve just for the purpose of, I have to stay an extra day, so it's going to cost me extra money to change my flight, or I have to pay for an extra night accommodation, all of these kind of things. The basic goal for a business is the same as you and I, to collect your cash as quickly as possible, so inflows to speed up and outflows to slow down. So I'll let you go through some of these reasons for holding cash, but they're really no different than you and I. How much cash do we need? How much do we need to borrow? What are interest rates? Deposits in savings accounts, if you're fortunate enough to have savings, term deposits, treasury bills, etc. Again, collection of cash. You need to record that on your balance sheet. And just because you sell something doesn't mean you get more cash. So you can sell something, it goes on to AR, and then eventually it becomes cash. And it tells the company how much cash they have available in the exact same way that you and I know how much cash is in our bank account. So there's different ways to improve collections. If most of your customers are in the United States and you are in Canada, it takes several days for a check to be, say, sent from Atlanta, Georgia to Calgary. If most of your customers are in the Eastern United States, you can have somebody go to a mailbox in, say, New York City, where it only take a day or two for the check to get from Atlanta to New York City, where it might take 5 business days to get to Calgary. And then have somebody literally go to your mailbox. It's called a lockbox system. Go to the mailbox, take the checks out, go to the bank and deposit them. And that's done. So that it's done by large corporations. When you're talking millions of dollars, collecting your cash as quickly as possible is important. At one point in my life, I was an accounts payable clerk, or I was in charge of actually the accounts payable department. And this was in northern Manitoba. So we would issue checks we would print checks Thursday night. We would mail them Friday. As I said earlier, that is considered to be paid on the Friday. But because we're in northern Manitoba and our suppliers were in Vancouver or Winnipeg or Toronto or Montreal or whatever, it would take a few days to get there. Certainly it would be early the next week before they would get their check. And we would send out, even many years ago, we sent $1 million a week in payments. So think about this. You send the check out on Friday, Tuesday gets cashed. For $1 million, you have the money Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. 4 days of interest free on $1 million. And then next week you do the same thing. So it was a great way to slow down our checks getting cashed. And we did not need to have money in the bank on Friday afternoon. We would get the money in the bank the next week when the checks would be cashed, so they would not bounce. These days, electronic funds transfer is done. You Interact, which you're very used to, which became very popular in the early 90s. Automatic deposits or withdrawals from our bank accounts. We prefer one over the other. We prefer the deposits. And we'll go through some examples of in the book of speeding up collections and slowing down disbursements. I mean, especially when you're dealing with large amounts of money, that can have a major effect in the tens of thousands of dollars per year. So we'll go through some examples from the book. Marketable securities, there's just simply short-term money. There's a yield on the marketable securities, as you can see. To calculate the interest rate, or R. We'll go through some examples again in the videos. Terms of credit, 210 means a 2% discount within 10 days. Net 30 means no discount. So if you pay from day 11 to day 30, you pay dollar for dollar. If you pay within the first 10 days, which is considered to be a cash discount, but it's really a quick pay discount, then what you have is you have a bill for $100, you pay it within the 10 days, you only have to pay $98, and the bill is considered to be completely paid off. Collection policy, how long it takes you to collect your money, the average collection period, what is the ratio of bad debt compared to your credit sales, And so you would want to lend money, which is really accounts receivable, to only creditworthy customers. And that's the end of chapter number 7.